Man lived with his dead wife's body for 21 years. A man has finally decided to let go after living with the body of his late wife for 21 years. After living with the corpse of his late wife for 21 years, a 72-year-old man has decided to retain his wife's cremated ashes at his home and devote the rest of his life to doing good in her memory. The story of Mr. Charn Janwatchakal, age 72, who's been living alone with the remains of his late wife for more than 2 decades, was revealed last Saturday, and he's been dubbed the Endless Love Man, or the Man of Eternal Love, by numerous internet users. The most recent event is that eminent lawyer Nitithorn Kaewto paid a visit to Mr. Charn on Monday and conducted an interview with him. According to the lawyer, the elderly gentleman is well educated, having earned multiple degrees over his life. After the death of his wife, he lived a life that was less than humble, since he did not even have access to electricity. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to be inspired by these real-life stories on a daily basis. Now, let's return to the story. The man lives alone in a ramshackle, one-story concrete house that looks like a little storage room on a 780 square meter property in Bangkok's Bang Khen area, in a small ramshackle concrete house. The house, which had windows and doors that had fallen out, had no power or running water. The old guy had to rely on water that was shared with him by a neighbor. Mr. Charn paid a visit to Phet Kasem Bangkok Foundation on April 29th in order to seek assistance with the cremation of his wife's remains. A female official at the organization was perplexed since she'd assumed the elderly gentleman lived alone. During the previous 2 months, she'd visited him on a daily basis to provide food and water after the charity saved him when he was involved in a motorbike accident. It was later discovered that the guy had kept the body of his wife in a coffin in the little room where he slept until the investigation was completed. He claimed that he conversed with the body as though his wife were still present. Eventually, he chose to cremate her out of concern that no one would perform a suitable funeral for him after his death. It was a tragic scenario when the elderly gentleman was seen on Facebook Live at the foundation, grieving and wishing his wife's coffin farewell for the last time. When the widower is overtaken with emotion, he sits on the ground and stares at the object before reaching out to touch it. It takes several employees to pry the deteriorating wooden lid apart, revealing the woman's charred skeletal remains, which they then wrap in linen and place in an older, more permanent coffin. As he sobs and clasps his hands together in prayer, Mr. Janwatchakal touches the corpse one more time before it's tenderly placed to rest in an elaborate casket he has chosen. Cleaning crews from the foundation went to the decaying residence to do some repairs. In the days after the cremation, they cleared out a lot of weeds and dried leaves from the complex, repaired the roof, and installed power for him. Mr. Charn informed Mr. Nitithorn that he used to live with his wife and 2 kids, but that after his wife died and he wanted to keep her body, the 2 boys moved out because they couldn't understand his decision to keep the body of their mother. An allegation of hiding a body could not be brought against him since he'd previously filed a death certificate for his wife. During a Monday visit to the elderly gentleman, Mr. Nitithorn discovered that the tree trimming, housing repair, and cleaning had not yet been completed by foundation employees. He has now been provided with a new mattress, blanket, and pillow from the foundation. After telling Mr. Nitithorn that he had studied pharmacy before joining the Royal Thai Army as a physician, the elderly gentleman continued his story. His wife had worked as a public health officer for the Ministry of Public Health. His other accomplishments include graduating from a traditional medicine school and successfully growing various plants at his complex. His understanding of herbs enabled him to survive 2 snake bites on his own, one of which should have been fatal. In the past, the man's wife had expressed an interest in expanding the family home, but the contractor abandoned the project as soon as he got the first payment, according to the lawyer. Following the death of his wife, Mr. Charn had lost interest in continuing with the construction project. During the day, he sat in a tiny spot near the home with his cats and dogs, soaking up the sun. In the evening, he slept next to his wife's coffin in a chamber that had previously served as a storage space. The charity's executive director, Mr. Nitithorn, was informed by Mr. Charn that he would begin working as a volunteer for the foundation in honor of his late wife. He has also granted permission to the foundation to store its rescue boats, which are utilized for flood relief activities, within the confines of the home property. In exchange, the foundation's personnel pledged to pay him frequent visits and to provide for his needs. Mr. Charn also received a bed from the lawyer, as well as gypsum boards for the construction of a new dwelling. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone else who might enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.